Good morning, everyone, and welcome to iteach Live. This is our daily time in which we get to interview and speak with an administrator or a teacher about the teaching profession. And so I hope everyone enjoyed their long weekend over Memorial Day and was safe. But this morning, I have the privilege to speak with Rachelle, who's a teacher here in North Texas. Good morning, Rachelle.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. Do you have a safe and good holiday?
We did.
I was reflecting. I was asked earlier if I had a good holiday, and I didn't even know how to respond because I feel like in a lot of ways quarantine has been this really extended holiday.
Yes.
In which I didn't know what day it was of the week, and so Monday felt like kind of a normal quarantine day in a lot of ways.
Right.
So I want to hop into a lot of different topics this morning. I know you talked to Lindsay, and I have a lot of notes here and questions to ask you. But before I hop into your school that you're in and the subjects you're teaching, I would love to hear just how you got into the teaching profession and what triggered that desire for you to become a teacher.
Well, honestly, I've been around kids all my life. My grandmother raised me, and so she had a home daycare. So I've always been involved in that. And then through college, I worked in schools. So I've always kind of wanted to be a teacher, but wasn't really sure how to do it. Wasn't really sure if that's what I really wanted to do. And then about 5 years ago, I just made the full decision to go ahead and go along with it. I've taught before. I've been in private schools in different states. And so it's just always been there. It's just kind of what I do. It's a natural thing for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think that probably reflects in your classroom, just having that natural inclination to be around kids is certainly probably
I hope so, yeah.
forced. So did you come right out of college into private school setting, or did you hop right into the certification route?
I did not. Actually, I went to college to do education. They threw me into an education class and I hated it. So I nicked the whole education career and went into psychology, which was probably the best thing for me because it's helped in every job I've ever had. I've been substituted in Arlington and worked there 1 year on an emergency certification, got married, moved to Indiana, worked at a private school there. And then I was blessed to stay home with my kids after that. And then when we moved to Maybank from Indiana, I started subbing again. And then just kind of gradually, my principal here and some other teachers were like, you need to be in the classroom. You're wasting your time and you're wasting a good effort that you give. So sure. I did iteach, and it was the best thing I could have done.
Man, that's fantastic. It seems to be a recurring pattern on these conversations that I have that a lot of individuals subbed or para'd, and for different reasons, but it all seemed to be one of the routes into the teaching profession was the sub or aid position. You said something that jumped out at me. You said you had a bad experience with an education class in your college experience. Was it just one bad teacher?
It wasn't even a bad teacher. It was like they just took you and threw you into a class of little kids with like this idea of what you were supposed to teach without any background knowledge or anything. And I was just like, this is not me. This is not what I want to do. It just wasn't, it didn't feel right at the time. And so it just wasn't my time. So I just decided to go something different.
So even in your undergraduate schooling, they're modeling teaching for you. So you grew up obviously having different teachers along the way, some good teachers, right, some bad teachers that are always modeling for you.
Right.
Was there a teacher that stood out, or was the bad experience also helpful in a way?
I think it was helpful. It made me look at what I really wanted to do. So being able to adjust to the psychology part of it was good for me. I think it's really helped me as a teacher because I understand the background knowledge of the kids. It helps me understand that and able to work with them. So I enjoy having that. I think it's a good thing to have. A teacher that stood out to me, I've had multiple teachers that have stood out. My kindergarten teacher was the first teacher I can remember. And I don't know what it was about her. I don't know if it was the way she looked or whatever, but I've never forgotten that teacher. I've had several bad teachers like we all have, but I don't think there was one that made me choose it. I think it's just something that because I was brought into it and raised up around kids and in that type of schooling thing, and I've always worked in daycares, it's just natural for me to move into that.
You know, I think over the course of, if I'm reflecting on my own personal career, there was one teacher that jumped out at me as a high school math teacher, and I ended up being a certified high school math teacher.
There you go.
It's amazing how teachers will stick with you longer than your time that 1 year in the classroom.
Right.
Do you feel that weight in your own classroom? You teach fourth grade, correct?
I teach 4th grade math, yes.
Okay, so do you think about that you have students now that might think back to your class of why they became a teacher or why they became a different profession?
I hope so. I mean, when I'm in the classroom, I always look at the relationships first. Teaching is second for me. So I would hope that I have an impact, a positive impact on a student. Being in a Title I school, we have all different types of kids that come through. And so my first group is going to be in 8th grade this next year. And so I see them a lot being in a small town, and they remember you and they talk about you, and their parents still email you and say, hey, my kid was doing such and said, oh, Miss Gamon would do this, or she would say that. So I hope I'm a positive. I hope there are kids that look back and go, I want to be a teacher because of her.
Yeah, and if you think about that, not that it's possible every day when you walk in the classroom, but if it's one of the reoccurring thoughts as a teacher to have, that regardless of the content you're teaching that day, there's going to be a memory of you that lasts longer than that year.
Yes.
It can be a burden, but also can be a really great privilege that you have each and every day.
It is. I look at our kids and we try to, because we're a family in our classroom. And so my sister teacher and I, we kind of have an idea that if you make it a family, then the kids do better. They need that support from each other. And so I don't know. Each kid's different. Each kid needs different things. And so our hope is that we can be a positive influence on them as they move forward, and that they can always come back to us if they need help later on.
Yeah, it's absolutely, it's not necessarily crucial, but it's so helpful to students to have that resource. And I hope that every student K through 12 gets 12 teachers or all, how many teachers they have that are all up to that standard.
You hope. Yeah, you hope. That's kind of my goal. Is I always look at, am I the teacher that I would want my kids to have, my own children? And if I'm not being that teacher for my own kids, then I'm not being a good teacher for those other kids either. So
yeah, I know working here at iteach, some of the times when I'm talking to potential teachers, I'm thinking about, would I want my child to be in this person's class?
Right.
And if not, is there something that we can do as a preparation provider to help craft that, to bring out the best in those teachers?
Right. I agree. I think that's a good idea. I think there's a lot of teachers that have a lot of good thoughts. They just don't know how to get them out there. And so I do think that iteach does a good job on that, or that did in my place.
Well, that's good to hear. There's a lot of ways teachers can put out a standard which to get to. The standard of, would I allow my kids to be in that person's class, is a very high standard.
Right.
So setting it there to begin with, I think is a great challenge and goal to have.
Right.
You mentioned just a minute ago, and I want to circle back to it, that you're in a Title I school. For those who might not be familiar or who are entering or thinking about the teaching profession watching this morning, what is a Title I school? Can you give us some context of that?
A Title I school, we have close to 60% or more that are more of the underprivileged that fall in that category. They come from all walks of life. We have some that have very supportive parents. We have some that have parents that would like to be supportive but don't know how. Yeah. We have some that just aren't supportive. And so our kids, it's based on their, I guess, where they fall on that privileged, underprivileged, poverty level. And so we have a large percent of ours that are on free and reduced lunches because they just don't have that income coming in for their family, or there's multiple children with the low income. So it's a lower level. I don't say lower level because I think we're a high standard school. So, but our kids work hard and they come in wanting to learn. They come in wanting the relationships with the teachers. And so at our school and in our district, they are very good about providing those types of things for those kids. And our kids rise to those standards that we set for them, even though they may struggle at home a little bit more.
Well, yeah, I think there's a lot of different challenges that come up in Title I schools. What are some of the tangible challenges that you encounter on a daily or weekly basis that you have to overcome?
Attendance is a big one. A lot of our kids have attendance issues for whatever reason, so we have to worry about those. The kids that are missing class time and creating the gaps in their learning. So that's a big one. We also have kids that come to us that may not have the perfect home life, and so they come in a bad mood, and that creates a whole day's worth of issues for them. And so we try to, get that early in the morning and give them that control that back to them that they know that they can have here. Whereas at home, there's not a whole lot of control they have over things.
Yeah.
So, but I would say attendance is a big thing. Kids coming in hungry, that's another big thing we do, but we do offer them the free breakfast. And then as a teacher, there are some kids, they want more, they need more than that. So we also offer a morning snack if they need that. You learn your kids real quick. So I do whatever I can, but attendance is our biggest issue, trying to keep them here and getting them to close those gaps that they've already created.
So that quick answer makes me ask a lot of questions in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to dwell too long, but I do have a couple questions just out of personal curiosity. Maybe it's helpful to anyone listening. That sounds really emotionally trying, to come into your class and see kids that are hungry or in a bad mood because of home life. How do you personally build up the stamina emotionally to love on those kids day in and day out?
I think those are the ones that are easier to love because they're open to that for the most part. You do have kids that aren't open to that because that's not what they're looking for. It's just something I enjoy doing. I enjoy building those relationships. I enjoy making those kids feel like they're my kids. And I always tell them from the first day in my class, you were always my kid. So even when you graduate, you're still my kid. And I do check up on them. When they leave our school, they go to another school building for fifth grade. And so we stay in contact with those teachers and let them know, hey, this kid's coming up. These are some of the things that we've noticed. So just keep an eye out. So we keep that continual upkeep for them and that lookout for them no matter where they are in their life. And then I think it's important that for me, I'm not doing my job and I don't feel comfortable doing my job if I'm not taking care of those kids. Someone has to, and it's something I enjoy doing and they're my favorites. So.
Well, it sounds like you have a good disposition to care well for those kids. I'm
Thanks.
curious of a lot of things about dispositions of teachers going into the classroom, and it might be that a Title I school or those unique challenges might be more difficult for other teachers to understand and to show compassion for. The other thing that you mentioned that I want to talk just briefly on is the attendance. You said it's a big issue, and obviously within a class you're going to be differentiating the learning per child, but
right.
It adds another level of needing to differentiate when they're actually not even there for the lessons.
It does.
How do you strategically work around just kids missing days?
Well, with the missing days, if it's 1 day or 2 days, it's kind of easier to pick up. The kids that miss, 3 or 4 days a week or, sporadically come in and out, I just pull them back. We have a great tiered system here. So we have our tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 kids. And so they receive extra support from our specialists that work in our classes. So I just pull them back. We pull them back. We start where their gaps are with our tier 3 groups to kind of build those up. And then we just work hard with them. We pull them in for tutoring. A lot of them will work hard for you and they want to learn. And so when you get that, it's easier to send it home and to talk about it, see where they're at, see what they missed. Is it really crucial for them to move on with it, and then pull them back later on to make sure you've got that covered well with them. So it really depends on the kid. Like I said, some kids will work hard, some kids won't work hard, some kids could care less about what they're doing. So you just have to find their little niche and get them to work for you. So.
Yeah, I think you oversimplified that a lot, that to get them to work for you, they want to work for you, and they definitely might want to work for you, but I wouldn't take that for granted. That's a lot of work
it is.
And a lot of energy to put forth to get that one sentence to actually come to fruition.
It is, but we work really hard on that. And I've learned that when you have that relationship, a good relationship with that kid, that they truly know that you care about them and that you love them and you want the best for them, they will work for you. They may not work for another teacher, but they will work for you. And so that's where that team of teachers comes into play that says, I'll help you, you help me, and you're a team. And so that kid knows that if they're not doing their job in one class, you're going to find out about it. And they don't want that sometimes. So I think a good team support with your teachers is crucial. A team with your parents is crucial for those kids. And once they realize that there's a team fighting for them, they tend to do better than you would expect. So.
Yeah, I mean, if I could oversimplify it, instilling confidence and then setting high expectations
Absolutely.
creates the difference within these kids.
Absolutely.
What's been outside, it seems like your general disposition to care and show compassion for kids, what's been the most helpful thing that you have at your disposal in the classrooms that you have in Title I environments? What do you find most helpful?
Well, our principal here at our school is all about our kids. And so it's not about us. It's not about, we're not the focus, which is good. It's about our kids and doing the best for our kids. So we have some technology available to us. We're not one-to-one, which means every kid does not have their own device here. So we work around that, and I'm allowed to do room transformations, which has become a big thing, I think, in some schools. That's my favorite. It draws the kids in. It makes them work. They're having fun. I think if we can make our classrooms fun, they don't realize how hard they're working. And so being able to do that instead of having to stick to a structured classroom, where my classroom changes all the time. So I think having that ability to change as I need to has been the most beneficial for me.
Members,
Sorry,
please read your emails. Very important information in there. I just kind of wanted to remind you of that. Please make sure that you're doing your best to stay 6 feet away from.
We'll wait for that announcement to finish up real fast. I'll take this minute real fast while she's on mute. Just to let people know who's joined us on Facebook Live right now, ask questions. If you leave a question in the comment, we'll certainly try to ask Rachelle anything you have. She's obviously a wealth of resource for Title I schools and classroom management differentiation. So certainly drop a question in the comments section and we'll get to that the best we can. Yeah, and we just got one message here that's talking about one-to-one, and one-to-one is actually just a definition of the technology level within a school. So one-to-one is where kids have the opportunity to have one device, like an iPad or a Kindle, per each student. So when you're in the classroom, each student would have access to a device. If as Rachelle said, she's not a one-to-one campus, she's limited in the resources. So they have shared resources or classroom whole resources, whether, and Rachelle can get into this, whether it's a smart board for the entire class or a shared resource technology-wise amongst the students. But her school, because it's a lower socioeconomic school, doesn't have the funds currently to provide a device per student. So it's not a one device per one student. Rachelle, you're still on mute.
I am.
She's still talking.
She likes to talk. I love her. Yeah, she's just giving us the rundown for the COVID, procedures while we're cleaning up our rooms.
I understand.
Yeah. So, go ahead. She's just talking about how amazing we all are.
So thank you very much. And we will hopefully see you over the next few days.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry.
No, I totally understand. You're at your school, and that is the life of a teacher. So I'm curious. Again, I have a lot of questions, and I feel like we need 2 hours, not 30 minutes, Rachelle. But one of the things that you mentioned is the team teachers and the support of those teachers to come alongside. And I think that's extremely valuable to let the student know, again, to build confidence that they are going to be loved and encouraged and expected to learn there on the campus.
Right.
I want to hop in because we're getting questions on Facebook, it looks like.
Okay.
And also I have some of my notes. So this is perfect. Into the actual classroom management. You mentioned classroom transformation. I want you to talk a little bit about that and how that kind of can help your classroom management. We'll start there.
Okay. So our room transformations is something that I started my first year here. it's where we take our classroom, and we usually do it a lot during our star push. So it's our final review weeks. So we take a classroom and we may transform it into a Jumanji room. We did that one year. And so you have the vines, you have the monkeys, you have the animals, and it all kind of comes together at the end. We've done Escape Zombie Island, where we've used dry ice and lights, and you just create a different atmosphere for the kids, and they take part in that, and it's almost like an escape room sometimes. And the kids don't realize how hard they're having to work and showing their work, but they know that in order to be a part of that, they have to do what's expected of them. So we use it almost like a behavioral challenge. Like if you do real well all week, then you get to be a part of this great big thing. And it's always a surprise. They never know what's going to happen. Right before we went into spring break, we did lava on the floor, which was like a game I played where you couldn't step on the floor because it was lava. So you had to claw all over stuff. So we created that in our classroom. We had a big volcano, and you use like stuff from the Dollar Tree. And you just create that experience for them so that it's something different. It's not the normal classroom, but it allows them to have fun and kind of get out of their sitting in a seat, learning all the time.
Sure.
And so that's what we do here. The team teach that I have, there are 4 of us, but we team up. So I teach math and science. My sister teacher, I call her, my work wife, whatever. This is going into our 4th year together. And we are so much alike that our kids will call us each other. And so, but our expectations are the same. And so from one room to the other room, they know that it's all the same. The requirements are the same. The expectations are the same. The love is the same. So I think that's important when you're on the same page with your team teach. And then even across the hallway, we have 2 teachers that team. And those kids know that those expectations that I have in my classroom are still what I have for them, even though may not be in my classroom. So I just think a good team is important for you as a teacher and for the student as well.
Yeah, and Rachelle, I could probably extrapolate some of the things you're saying, how it translate into classroom management, but do you have specific strategies or things that you actually think through to have good classroom management for behavior and for productivity?
I think we start out with the whole we're a family, and with a family, you respect each other. You don't have to like each other because we all have family members that we don't care for, but we still appreciate them and we still respect them. So that's a big thing for us. I don't have very many rules in my classroom. Respect each other, be kind, and help each other. Those are kind of the main 3 that we push here. Because if you're doing that, then everything else falls into place.
Right.
So we really push that. I think that I have to be very flexible with my classroom management. I start off, these are the rules. I trust you, you trust me. We build that trust together. However, we all know that kids change and things happen. And so you have to be very flexible to be able to change that management system that you have going. What works for the first 6 weeks may not work the next 6 weeks, especially with holidays and stuff coming up. It changes the dynamic of your classroom. So I think you have to be willing to change with that and not hold them the same all the time. And different kids require different things. So you might have a child that has ADHD and they're not being helped with that. And so you're kind of on your own devices, and you have to come up with plans for those kids. And I think it's important that you do it by kid, not by class. So that's kind of how I do it here. I look at it and these are our rules. This is what we're going to do. And we do it. But different kids require different things. So.
Yeah, I completely agree. And what a challenge it is to have so much reflection on your own classroom and your own teaching, so that, like you mentioned, kind of breaking out the year by 6 weeks. Embedded in your answer means that at the 5th and 6th week, you're thinking, okay, how do we get prepared for the next 6 weeks? Or what can I take away from that 6 weeks and learn? And it sounds like it's an ongoing process that you are working. And, oftentimes teachers will kind of get poked fun at that they have summers off and that they work 8 to 3:30. Regardless if you're grading papers or not, the amount of energy and time teachers spend on how to be effective in the classroom is almost immeasurable when it comes to what you have to do to prepare for that next 6 weeks block of time.
It is. we're on a 9-week grading period, but like the kids' behavior is going to change, and as they're in 4th grade, they're growing, so different things happen. My husband always said, don't stay up late, because I don't go to bed very early when we're in school, because there's so much to do. And there are those kids that you're at home going, okay, what can I do to help them? I know they're struggling here. I know they're struggling there. I don't take the summers off. Like, yes, I'm at home with my family, but I'm still thinking, okay, so next year, what are we going to do? How am I going to implement the new curriculum we might be using? Or I know this group of kids that's moving up. How can I fit my room to fit them better instead of what I would want to do? So I think there's a lot of mental work that goes into being a teacher that a lot of people don't understand. I know that some of our parents over this COVID-19 lockdown has seen some of that. And I think that to me has been good, because they truly understand what some of it that goes into it, because they're seeing it now firsthand. So, and we've had a great group of parents and a great district that's helped us. So
that's great.
We haven't had it really rough here. I mean, it's been rough, but not as bad as it could be.
So I want to, there's a question that actually came through Facebook, and I think you would be uniquely equipped to answer it. The needs of your students does not change because you're a Title I school. They're still the same. They still need to have the same care, year over year growth, but yet they've been deemed low socioeconomic. They've been deemed Title I. What's your position on advocacy for equity within that classroom and getting over any stigmas around a Title I school?
Our kids don't even know what that is. They don't even know what that means. We don't talk about that here. We are just a school that they come to and that they achieve at. So for me, I don't look at them as a Title I school. I don't look at them as Title I kids I know that they are there and I know who they are, but we don't treat them any differently. Our kids don't treat them any differently. Being in an elementary school, they've all grown up together. So they know each other. It's a unique experience to see kids here where they don't pick at them. I think as they get older, that kind of comes into more play, that they might, not have as much as someone else. But here in 4th grade, like, we're all equal. And that's what we tell our kids. No one's better than anybody else. No one's smarter than anybody else. We all have our strengths. We all have our weaknesses. We all have different lives. We talk about our families. We talk about our homes. My kids know me. They know my children. They know my husband. They know my dogs. We're one big family. There's nothing that we keep from them. We don't share everything, but they're family, and they know half of them know where I live. So they're like, I drove by your house yesterday. And I'm like, oh, great. But I think it's important to treat them all equally, and for the kids to know that they are all equal at some level. They're kids. And I think it works best for them.
Staff members,
She's come back on.
one other thing, Mr. Melton was able to print out some of those who emailed logs to us, so those are in your boxes if he hasn't already seen you.
Well, I was going to add to that. It seems really important, whether you perceive it or not, that you're establishing new norms, or at least helping persist some of the naivety of equality, because you're right, as they get into more cognitive nature of understanding differences among them, whether it's money or food or whatever it could be.
Right.
Right now, you're saying you're equal. You're coming on an even playing field from a learning perspective to my classroom.
Right.
And hopefully that instills and you're embedding in them that when they get to 6th grade, 7th grade, as long as it pertains at least to learning, that your students can achieve that. External sources, yes, they're impactful, but it's not a limiting factor, hopefully, to their ability to achieve, to set high standards, and to learn.
Right. And that's our goal. Like, we have, our lower level students. And so we don't set our expectations any differently for them. They still, their expectations may not be set high, but they still want to achieve that high expectation that the other kids do. And we found that kids like that are lower level, our SPED kids, things like that, they will work hard and they can do even better than some of our classroom kids, because they want to do better. They want to say, I'm just as smart as you. So you create a little competition in there for some of those kids, and it turns out working out very well for them. So, but I think it is important that these kids think that they understand they are equal. It doesn't matter where you come from. It matters where you're going. And as long as you continue to fight and push for what you want to do in the future, you can always be equal with them, no matter what your background looks like.
And how awesome it is for you to take those kids who have that "I'll show you" mindset, that you get to empower them to actually.
Those are my favorite kiddos, like absolutely my favorite.
Yeah, they got the kind of that fight in them that's fun to
Yes.
cultivate.
Yeah, it's a good one.
So Rachelle, as I've been doing for the past couple of weeks, I usually end on letting the teacher kind of speak on any kind of advice or encouragement. And I would love to turn it over to you. As you think about individuals watching this who might be thinking about getting a teaching profession, what advice would you give them going to that first day of school, those first couple of weeks in a school, to establish just a great environment for classroom learning?
I would say go in with an open heart and have no pre-planned ideas, because it's not going to work out the way you think it is ever. You meet your kids, spend those couple of days getting to know them, getting to understand who they are, let them know who you are, and then start setting your rules and boundaries. I think it's important for them to understand that they're starting with a clean slate. Things are new, but you're more focused on them than you are what their learning is. And I think that's a big thing, and be very flexible, because it's going to change. This is the way it's going to be my first year. And yeah, they quickly showed me that's not how it works. And so you learn to be really flexible. And I think you go in there with that open heart and you love them all. You're going to love them all differently, but love them all. Be kind to them. They need that kindness. And even on your worst days, remember to smile, because they need that smile when they first see you. Even if you've got a bad headache or you're sick or don't feel good, be there for them, and just go to your job, do it to the best you can, and enjoy it. You have to enjoy what you do. If not, the kids know you're not enjoying it either. So whatever your face shows, that's what your kids are going to know.
Yeah, I mean, that's really good advice. And you said it early on in this discussion, I'm going to reiterate because I liked it so much, is that you feel relationships are first, teaching is second. And so although your title is a teacher, it's certainly not encompassing of all you do.
Right.
Even if teaching is second, you're obviously still affecting teaching and impacting student learning. Yes. But primarily, you're coming in to be an advocate for that student, to let them know that you have their back, they're going to learn. And then it sounds like you create a fun environment so they don't know they're learning or working that hard. But hopefully the goal is, if I understand everything you've said, and I can simplify it, is at the end of the year, they've learned some, but they're also taking away things that establishes them for the 5th grade and onward through their life.
Absolutely. And teaching is important. I'm not saying that, but
Right.
The kids learn better if they're having fun. That's been my thing from the very beginning. I like to have fun. I don't want to sit at a desk all day and learn. So having fun, having that relationship makes learning easier. And sometimes it's better for the kids. So that's what we've learned here.
Well, Rachelle, thank you so much for your time. I hope that the fall is a normal year for you. I know it's been chaotic the past couple months. So I'm glad to see that you're in your classroom. That's a good sign. Yeah. And then hopefully you enjoy your summer, and then a great school year next year. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.